Hello, everyone, and welcome to Theory into Practice. I am Dan Scott, and today on the show, we're actually going to be talking to David Muse. I met David back when we took the Planning Practitioners Program, the PPP or PP3 or whatever we're calling it nowadays. Just barely passed that, by the way, with my capstone. We're going to talk about leadership, and we're going to talk about IAEM, and we're going to talk about everything IAEM is doing, but we're also going to talk about the leadership that we have with IAEM and how David is campaigning to move up in leadership at IAEM, which I support that 100%. So before we go any further, let me just welcome David. David, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you for having me.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time. I appreciate everything you're doing for emergency management and for IAEM specifically. But I want to talk real quick about, so we met in the Planning Practitioners Program, great program, by the way. I just went through my capstone. Did you just go through your capstone too?
A couple months ago, I believe it was February time frame.
Yeah, I literally just went through a few weeks ago. I passed, so that's good
Congratulations.
news.
Yeah.
So a lot of good things happened. We met there, and you were transitioning into higher ed at the point, and I've spent 12 years in higher ed as an emergency manager. So what are you thinking so far about emergency management in higher ed?
I will tell you folks, I don't want to showboat it too much, but I think emergency management's best kept secret here. For those that don't know, I'm the assistant director of emergency management over at UMass Lowell. We are a campus community of about 18,000 students, and then you factor in faculty, staff, and we're a city within the city, and all of the traditional roles and functions that you'll see from any other emergency management shop, whether it's planning, training, exercise, you name it, we're doing it. And that it's the place to be if you're an emergency manager. It's the best of every world that's imaginable for us. And that planning practitioner program, Daniel, I don't know about you, but I didn't consider myself as much of a planner going into that class as I do coming out of it. I really get a lot from that program, and anybody that gets the opportunity to take that should definitely apply, in my opinion.
I agree. When I went in, I'd been planning for 10 plus years, but I never really considered myself a planner. It's just part of the job as a emergency manager. But when you went in there, you got to see some of the more detailed work of what really goes into the planning process, and not so much the EOP, but other plans that get incorporated and how you go about that. And then some of the theory and the practice that goes into that. That's one of the reasons why I named my show Theory into Practice, because there's a whole lot of theory out there, but there's not a whole lot of practice. But this was a great balance of theory and practice. But learning the theory behind it allowed you to open up your mind a little bit about how you put it into practice. So I was absolutely, I came out of it 100%. Feeling like I knew more about what I was doing. I've been in planning for 10 years, and I feel like coming out of it, I feel like, okay, I can do it so much better than I have been doing it. So yes,
Absolutely.
I 100% agree to that program. When everything gets settled and things start to finally flow again, if you have not gone to PPP, I highly recommend it, and I will be sharing the offerings whenever they become available.
Yeah. And like any other EMI course, Daniel, the networking is the other huge aspect of being able to pick up the phone and call people with questions or reach out to folks from all over the country or different sectors. It's just invaluable. I'm in a small text group with a couple of cohort members that we talk probably once or twice a week. And it's just, where else can you go to actually get that experience other than EMI? So
yeah, just EMI in general. I know we changed the name, but it'd always be EMI to me. But EMI in general, I met friends when I first started really digging into learning to be an emergency manager back in the basic academy back in 2015. I have lifelong friends I made in that basic academy that I still talk to on a regular basis, that we try and get in the same classes to go to.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So it's definitely amazing networking and the friendships that you make, especially when you meet like-minded individuals that do work in what we do in emergency management, but really value emergency management, aren't doing it because they were volunteer, really choose to do it. EMI is fantastic. So is Center for Domestic Preparedness. So is CSTI. So is TEACS. All of those really do. Those courses are great, but the camaraderie and the networking that you get inside there to learn from other people and connect with people from around the globe. It's not just around the country, it's around the globe. It's freaking amazing. So yeah, I agree with you 100%.
What I know you said you did the basic and PPP, obviously. Have you done any other programs through NDMU or CDP and whatnot, TEACS?
Yeah, I've been pretty active in training, try to be, and then I'm active in sending others to training. Personally, I've been through all the academies.
Okay.
I've been through the basic, the advanced, and the executive. I've been through the PPP is good. The CERT train the trainers. I did all the train the trainers for the basic academy. And then CDP, I was a hazard tech for a long time. I was a responder. That's how I started my career. So I went there a lot for emergency response and then a lot of CBRNE stuff. So and that was CDP or TEACS.
Okay.
And then as I transitioned more to being the EMI became my destination of choice. So yeah, but I've done a lot through there, including as an instructor. I've been through there quite a few times to instruct the basic academy and a few other classes that are through there. As I said, I spent 12 years in higher ed. And one of the classes that I taught there was emergency planning in higher education or education. Very cool. And a program that continually evolving and changing and updating and becoming more available in the States as well. So I've done
I'm
a
on.
lot through there, and
Yeah.
I'm a big proponent for them. EMI, I push them continuously. I've had all the directors, mostly all the directors on, or directors of programs that I support on the show, just because I've been through them all and they're continue to evolve and change. And they've gone out through the States as well, all except for the executive. So when I
Mhm.
started, it was they were just getting ready to start rolling with the basic, and then the advanced. It switched from being the Leaders Academy to the Advanced Academy, and so just a lot of changes have happened. So I try to stay on top of that.
Yeah, I think when I did the basic back in 2013 timeframe, it was 4 weeks down at EMI, actually. It
Yeah,
was you
yeah,
go down for 2 weeks of the fundamentals and then you go home and then you come back and they do 102 through 105 back to back. That was a lot of cafeteria food down there, a lot of
yeah.
ice creams out of the soft serve machine. But
But I did when I went. It was two-week sessions, so
okay.
two
Yep.
weeks and then come back in 2 weeks. But
Okay.
yeah, it was a long time to be there, but it was amazing. Yeah, we went to the stuff you get to do when you're there too. When if you plan it, there's
Yep.
Gettysburg, there's Hershey's. You can
Yep.
go to New York, you can go to Washington D.C. I mean, there's so much stuff to do in that area. So
Yep.
I can't sell it enough.
Agreed. Yep.
But yeah, back on topic. Who is David? Tell everybody who you are, where you come from, who you are, and then let's talk about IEM when you're giving everybody let everybody know who David is.
Yeah, sure. I live in a small state called New Hampshire. That's in the Northeast for those that maybe have never heard of it before. I'm very fortunate currently to be serving as the IAEM Region 1 president. A few years ago, back when Justin Cates actually was transitioning out, Justin and I had a really good conversation, and he had encouraged me to get involved in the regional leadership team here for Region 1. And so I had run for vice president at the time and was fortunate to get elected into that role. And so spent a few years in that position. How we had previously done it was in Region 1 for elections, you'd spend 2 years as the vice president, 2 years as the president, and 2 years as the immediate past president. We've recently had gotten some feedback from members saying a 6 year commitment is a bit of a long time to ask of people. So we've actually parsed that out in Region 1 here. So now you can run for just the VP or the president role, and it's only a 2 year cycle instead of a 4 or 6 year commitment, I should say. On the professional side, I got involved in emergency management back when I started with Red Cross Disaster Services. I was a disaster program manager in Southern Vermont and Southern New Hampshire for a few years. And then, as part of that, obviously working with different communities to enhance preparedness, manage and support volunteers, but also deploy out to different Red Cross disasters. So, my very first deployment being Hurricane Matthew back in, I believe, 2017 timeframe down to North Carolina, and just fell in love with it. And all throughout high school and college, I was very set on becoming a law enforcement officer and had really discounted all other careers. And when I was taking the ICS 300 and 400 classes, I was one of the weird folks in the room that was actually really enjoying the content and excited to be there. And I said, maybe I am suited for this career and this profession, and really enjoy the collaboration and the coordination piece over the command and control piece. I think it's more of my kind of go-to leadership style, if you will. But after working for Red Cross for a few years, jumped into the private sector for an organization, State Street Corporation down in Boston, worked within their global security department, doing emergency preparedness for them, basically running a CERT equivalent program for our emergency coordinators all throughout North America. Then left there, did a brief stint at the Mass State Emergency Management Agency as a state exercise officer. Another opportunity came and presented itself and jumped into healthcare EM with Mass General Brigham all throughout the COVID pandemic. Really get to see firsthand some of the hard lessons we learned, some of the unique issues that we got to navigate during that time frame. And then, as you mentioned, over the past year and a half, I've been at UMass Lowell as their Assistant Director of Emergency Management, and very happy to be in the higher ed space.
Awesome. So just talk about, for everybody who's listening, maybe you don't know, FEMA is broken up into regions, 10 regions, and IAEM is broken up into regions as well. And in those regions, IAEM membership, they break up into region 1 all the way up to region 10. And then so there's the president, vice presidents, there's treasurer, secretary. So it's all set up. So if you're not involved in your regions or IAEM specific, I would definitely encourage that. I'm involved in IAEM region 9. We're actually setting up our region 9 symposium. Each region is starting to do their own little symposiums throughout the year, which is great, in conjunction with the main conference that we do in November. What I hear too, it might be coming in October in the next year or two.
I believe it is.
Which is kind of new. But so if you don't know, that's what when we say regions, we're broken up into that as International Association of Emergency Managers. We're broken up into regions, and we have leadership within each of those regions. So you're in leadership right now in region 1, and you actually were just talking about, I know we just did I didn't, but you guys just did the IAM retreat. So
Yep.
you talk a little bit about that and what came from that.
Yeah, this year we hosted the retreat out in Omaha, Nebraska. I was hoping for like Hawaii or Miami, but that didn't happen. What I will say though is Omaha was absolutely lovely, very affordable, very clean. And Daniel, I don't know if you've ever been to the Northeast, but once you get west of the Mississippi, it's amazing to see the difference in how planned out communities are, grids and blocks and boulevards. And if you're ever in downtown Boston, looking at the roads and the infrastructure and the way we're laid out up here, it's refreshing to go someplace else and see how well it's planned out. But aside from that, yes, Omaha was absolutely lovely. I did actually have my first tornado warning experience out there. So, of course, I was in the airport flying home and watching the weather on the TV, the breaking news, and they issued a tornado warning for the airport. So I got to go into an evacuation shelter area and weather out the storm. That was definitely a first for me. And but anyway, the board meeting itself, Daniel. So this is my second year going to the board meeting, or board retreat, I should say. We have board meetings monthly and a number of in-person initiatives. This was the first one that I've been to in my tenure as the Region 1 president, where I feel or felt like we are in a really good spot in continuing to grow and move the organization forward. We have so many different irons in the fire right now. But with that, we have so many passionate members and folks that have stepped up to really go above and beyond to rise to the occasion and to not just continue some of the activities that our organization's known for, like the national conference and the virtual conference, things like that, but all of the regional events. I would say the overwhelming majority of each of the regions is doing some type of conference or symposium over the next few months here. We've got, of course, in August, our EM Awareness Month coming up, which is a huge initiative and a lot of hard work. Blood, sweat, and tears has gone into putting together some content and some resources that will really make that month stand out and be memorable here as we move forward. So there was so much that came out of that very productive 2 days. And then to our earlier conversation about the networking, we're in the meeting space 9, 10 hours a day or whatever. But after hours, it's nice to go out and grab dinner with, again, those like-minded individuals you mentioned, and further strengthen some of the relationships that I had previously had with folks.
Yeah, you know what? I've been a part of IAM for I guess 10 years now. My first conference was actually when the last time they were in Vegas.
Okay.
And so when I dove into emergency management, I dove in pretty much, I went all in. So I started going to trainings and conferences and everything just so that I could learn and be a part of it. IAM has grown so much over the last 10 years that I've actually been able to see. I've only been taking part in the leadership and in the committees and stuff like that over the last 3 or 4 years. And I can definitely say that it's huge change from where it used to be. Now, with everything happening right now, and everybody has their own opinions and their own beliefs and their own, but in a time where people are so uncertain about things, IAM has really stepped up, and so has the leadership, and so have the members.
Mhm.
And that's one of the things I've been love seeing, and we're seeing more and more, especially from the leadership. What do we expect to come from a lot of these changes or a lot of these uncertain times that we're experiencing right now, as it relates to how we continue to build the IAM and its membership and its leadership over the coming months?
And just to address something before I try to answer that question for you, we're getting some feedback from folks because of the level of advocacy and government affairs engagement and involvement that we've been partaking in over the past couple of months. What I want to say, and one of the messages I want to share on behalf of the board, is yes, IAM has stepped up its advocacy and government affairs game over the past couple of months here in doing more so now than we ever have before, but it's not at the detriment of any other activities or member benefits that we have as an organization. We're still doing the regional conferences, we're still doing the national conferences. The newsletters and EM bulletins are all coming out. We have, to your point earlier, really risen to the occasion and in doing a lot in that space. As far as what we are talking about as a board going forward, there's a number of initiatives. It's not just sustaining, but continuing to grow some of those member benefits and some of those kind of keystone or hallmark things that we do. The administration of the AEM and the CEM certification programs, it's looking at how to continue to optimize and enhance some of those things. It's looking to advance that people's understanding of emergency management. I go to this phrase a lot, but unfortunately, Daniel, my mother doesn't know what I do day to day as an emergency manager. So how do we expect elected officials, chiefs of organizations, private business CEOs, or whoever it might be, if the people closest to us don't truly know what we do, how do we expect other folks to do? And the board has really stepped up, and we are really focused in on trying to make sure that people understand the value that we bring to any organization or jurisdiction that we're a part of, while continuing to not just sustain, but to grow those baseline programs that really make IAM a great organization. So those are some of the things we've been working on. Obviously, it's no news to anyone. There's a lot going on in Washington, D.C. right now. And we have a government affairs liaison, if you will, that works. His name's Thad Hugerly, on behalf of the organization down there, engaged in lobbying type efforts. Thad and our government affairs committee are very honed in on keeping their fingers on the pulse of what it is that's going on down there and communicating that information back to both the board and our larger members so that we can make more informed decisions and we can try to have a seat at the table. Which also, for those that don't know, in June, there's, I believe, the largest contingent of IAEM members taking on Capitol Hill. I believe it's the 24th timeframe of June. Every region is sending representation down to meet with elected officials down on the Hill, and really do some of the things that we were just talking about and offer to be a voice, offer to be a subject matter expert. For anybody that tuned into some of the congressional testimony about a month ago, Carrie was one of the four. Carrie Sprans is our president of of IAEM-USA. She was one of the four people that was invited to testify on behalf of the profession in front of the Congressional Review Committee. So these are some of the things that, not just that we've been engaged in, but some of the things that we're continuing to do and that are on the horizon for the organization here and our members.
Yeah, that's great to hear. Actually, I just heard about the going to Capitol Hill this morning, and that's fantastic to be able. People are actually setting up time to go talk. It's going to be It's fantastic. I think we're doing more and more. I like that you mentioned that we're not doing. It's not taking the fact that we're doing more isn't taking away from anything else we're already doing. We're because we truly are doing more. We're not. We're no other place is suffering. No, it's more people are stepping into roles to take on these initiatives, and it's at a time where it's absolutely needed. So it was great to hear that the retreat went well. I know I've talked to others who were there, and they said that the same thing, that it was beautiful, unexpectedly
Yeah.
beautiful. But being a tornado, having your first tornado warning, airport is probably the best place you'd want to be because they're so built, and you get to go in those big storm shelter bathrooms that they have.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't go through those all the time. I grew up in Oklahoma, so they have them all the time. And then when I was in Texas, in Waco, it was huge. So I've had many of those. So have your first one, and it's welcome to
Well,
the club, man.
thank you. As a New Englander,
Yeah,
obviously, the
yeah,
only thing I usually worry about is snowstorms. So that was a lot different than, not to say we don't get our occasional tornado up here, but it's a lot different when you look out and you can see the plains and see how good the wind can get going.
when you don't know, when it's like when you don't know, that's the how it can be, the uncertainty that we go back to. When you don't know, that's how bad it can be. That's when you get you a little your nerves up a little bit. But I wanted to touch base before we round out. So you've been in leadership now for several years in Region 1, and you are working your way up to run for second VP of national. So let's talk a little bit about that and what your hopes are there and why people should vote for you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that opportunity, Daniel. For those that don't know, IAEM's got their national and regional elections coming up here this summer. Every year, there's a new second vice president that comes into the organization at the USA level. Because what we have is a 4-year commitment. So the second vice president will serve a year in that term. Then they'll transition, to first vice president, president, and then a year as immediate past president. This way, there's some continuity to the organization, and they can get a feel for the role and what it entails as they progress up the ranks, if you will. As we look to the future here, my platform is really based on 3 different elements, if you will. And a lot of these elements we've actually already talked about. The first is looking to really look at strengthening and optimizing IAEM as an organization. We are first and foremost a member-based organization. And a lot of times I'll get the question, where is the member value? What do I get out of my close to $200 a year membership? And I've really changed the way I've tried to answer that question for folks. And it brings me back to my days volunteering with Red Cross, where I used to tell the volunteers, you get out of it what you put into it, right? As you can attest to, if you're somebody that's active and wants to meet people and volunteer for different projects and whatnot, this is the organization for you. And really trying to promote some of those opportunities for folks to actually get involved. So we hear from people sometimes, hey, I want to get involved, but I don't know how. And for those folks, I would say reach out to your regional leadership, or if there's a committee or caucus that you're interested in or passionate about, get involved with them. That first kind of platform element, if you will, is strengthening IAEM as that member first organization and making sure that the members we currently have feel like they're getting value out of their membership. There's also there's elements of operational efficiency or that I'd like to look at. In the ICS world, we call it unity of effort. Because we're an international organization, we've got so many different levels and layers of different subgroups within the organization that are working on different projects and initiatives. I'd really like to work on bringing them together and having defined leaders' intent and letting them start to execute on that. This way, we're all kind of rowing the canoe in the same direction, if you will. And for those members that don't have time, getting back to my earlier comment, you get out what you put in. What I will say is, like most emergency managers, time is a precious commodity. And there is still value in being an IAEM member, right? It's not just the advocate, or I'm sorry, it's not just the networking, but it's the advocacy piece and what the organization's doing for the profession. It's being able to attend the committee meetings and get some of the information coming out of the government affairs committee, or taking some resources and reworking them for your jurisdiction or your organization, or being able to pick up the phone and call someone that's a fellow IEM member to get that question answered, or to figure out how they were able to navigate a specific threat, hazard, or risk. Really invaluable stuff there, in my opinion. So that, circling back to the first element of the platform, it's really strengthening us as an organization. The second platform piece that I want to take a look at is really working to advance professional development and credentialing. If I'm not mistaken, the CEM program was launched back in 1993. I think it's time that we take a look at and embrace the niche sectors and disciplines within emergency management as a profession, and look at possible credential opportunities there. So, for example, whether it's having your CEM, but also being able to go to the next layer and get a healthcare emergency management endorsement, or a power and utilities endorsement, or higher ed, or whatever it might be. In that, I've got a lot of thoughts on what that could look like. I'm very curious to hear from our members what they think it should look like, but it will help advance and grow the profession. And it will really allow us to give the members who are maybe mid and senior level emergency managers that kind of next step in their professional development journey. Because a lot of times people get the CEM and say, what's next for me? Like, where do I go from there? And NDMU or EMI was doing a good job filling the void there. But as an organization, I think it's time that we explore what the next iteration of credentialing looks like for our profession here. And then third, and again, this goes back to my kind of comment about my mom not knowing what I do here. I think it's time that we redefine emergency management from a niche role to an organizational imperative. It's not a nice to have, it's a need to have. And I want to see resources and trainings and real kind of some of more of those tangible benefits, so that our members can take those things, modify and adjust them, so that they can go back and really, for lack of a better term, sell their program to their leadership in their communities, so that folks can see what the value is. It's that old adage about, for every dollar you give me for mitigation, I can spend you X number of dollars on the back end, 1 to 6, 1 to 13, 1 to 20 some odd, depending on what research you look at. It's time that we continue to beat that drum, but also beat it a little bit louder here and say, hey, these are the things that maybe we can't quantify as much, or maybe there are some instances of things we can quantify, and provide our members with the tools and resources to actually be able to do that. So those are the kind of 3 pillars of my campaign here, and what I'm hoping to accomplish in what will be a 4-year kind of term on the USA board here.
That's actually, it's fantastic. I don't think I disagree with anything you said as far as like things that we need and how we need it. The professionalization, I think, is one of the biggest parts, is being able to really, and it's not necessarily, not because, yeah, my mom doesn't know either what I do, but it's sometimes the individual cannot explain what they do. So we need, if we could get more of that individualized and that standardization to say, this is what I do. This is what the value that I bring, and this is how it benefits the organization. I love the fact that you want to do step up from other niche type things from the CEM. I think that would be a great avenue to explore. I'd love to see how that would work out, because there's so much we could do. And in fact, offering different types of that specialization that other emergency managers that are professionalized, have the CEM, would like to know. I know many emergency managers would like to get project management certification. Emergency management, project management, something like that would be fantastic to look into. So I look forward to seeing how that turns out. I'll be supporting you on that. I think it's a great, when you decide to go into leadership and when you decide to commit yourself to that, you're committing yourself to 4 years, right? You ultimately will be the president of IAEM, and so the things that you put together now will stack, and they will culminate as you become president, and then the people come in behind you to be able to support those efforts as well. So I look forward to that. I 100% think that the individuals that do want to step into that role at that level should come to the table with actual initiatives that they want to put forth. Not just, it would be nice to be. It's like, actually, this is why I want to be. This is why I'm confident that I could be the second, the first, and the president. So I appreciate that very much. I'll definitely putting this out to support you on that. Thank you for choosing Theory into Practice to talk to people about what you're doing, how you're doing it. IAM overall. We'd love to hear more about that as we go. I've been talking to other people from IAM, get the message about what we're doing, how we're doing it, the conference that we're planning, we just said the virtual, the conference is coming up. I mean, so little things that we got going on that we could continue to put that message out there. But I think a lot of it too, just my 2 cents, is that it's great to have an organization that really builds up the profession, but it does boil back down to individual. It's individualized. What am I doing to advocate for myself and the profession? What am I doing to really show that I bring value to whatever it is I do? And I think
Absolutely.
IAM can help the individual do that. But you do get out of it what you put into it. And at the
100%.
very minimum, people, if you're out there listening right now, the very minimum, sign up for the newsletter, get the information. At the very minimum, at least you can get the information that's being put out about what's happening in emergency management with IAM and within policy in general, what's happening right now. At the very minimum, you should know that's happening, whether or not you're taking direct action or not, or able to take direct action. Like you mentioned, not everybody has the time, or say they have the time to put into it. But at the very minimum, they can have the time to gather the information they need to advocate upon themselves, right? At the very minimum, I hope they take away that.
But to that point, Daniel, this just happened to me a few weeks ago. We're planning a functional exercise for our Emergency Operations Center staff at the university. And I said, oh, who am I going to have come in and be controllers and evaluators for this exercise? I blasted out an email to some IAM members, and within, I think, 24, 36 hours, I had 10 controllers and evaluators signed up. And yeah, we could have hired a private consultant company to come in and do that for thousands of dollars. And it's because of the relationships and the network that I've been able to build within the organization that when I put the call for help out, I know people are there. And fortunately, it hasn't risen to the level of needing to put that call out for help during disasters and emergencies. But I do have my Rolodex of trusted folks that if things really do go sideways, I'm confident I can pick up the phone regardless of what time of day or night it is, and they'll be there to have my back. And to my knowledge, there's no other organization out there like that, and that affords members to create that level of camaraderie, if you will. So it's invaluable in my opinion.
100% agree with you on that. So there's no disagreement whatsoever. I think, if anything, when you do that, when you build those networking opportunities, when you go to the conferences, when you go to the meetings for your region, when you go to these things and you get to meet other people, you make those relationships and you build. Emergency management is one of the most collaborative industries I've ever seen. That's why I love it so much, is because we want to help other people. We want to collaborate because we get to work with everybody, and we don't want to fight to get people to understand and be able to help people or ask others to help us. We want to so when we put that call out, we can expect people are going to answer it. And with IAM, you know that if they're coming from the IAM space, you're getting professionalized, knowledgeable people, right? Versus just put out a call and you get who you get, right? And some listserv. No, you get professionalized people that know what they're doing come to your aid. So that's fantastic. Love to hear that. David, thank you so much for taking the time today. I love everything you said. I love what you're planning to do, what you want to do. I thank you for the willingness to step into this type of leadership role. Good luck with that. And just thank you for giving us the information for the IAM, what's happening in your current leadership role, and what you've found and what's going on and what's coming. It's great for everybody to know and to hear. But I tell everybody, your time is your most valuable resource, and I appreciate you giving me some of that today.
Absolutely, Daniel. Thank you for hosting, and thank you to all the folks out there listening. Just whether you're a member or not, listening to podcasts and things like that to just further your professional development and to keep a pulse on what's going on in the industry is so important. So thank you to those folks for taking the time to do that, because it's what delineates us as a profession. So thank you.
So let's tell everybody real quick how they can get a hold of you if you want to connect. I know you're available on LinkedIn, but
Big
where else
LinkedIn
might they
guy.
get a hold of you? Yeah.
Yeah, big LinkedIn guy. I do want to encourage folks to reach out to me if they do have any questions about what my intent is in these leadership roles. Feel free to send me an email. It's USA Region 1, that's the number one, president at IAEM.com. Again, that's USA Region 1 president at IAEM, IAEMUSA.com. And I do have a number of different Meet members. Josh Morton came up with this idea a few years ago, but Meet the Candidates. I will be hosting some informal webinars that folks from all over the US and international can jump on and meet me and ask me questions. So just keep an eye on my LinkedIn if we're not already connected, and we'll be sure to have those folks hopefully attend some of those sessions so that they can get their questions answered or provide their insight into different things that they think the organization should be taking a look at or working on here as we move forward.
Awesome. And if you're driving down the road right now, listen to this. I will make sure I put those into the show notes. So don't get in a car accident trying to write this stuff down. They will be in the show notes and you'll be able to access them. The information, I'll put his LinkedIn contact information in there and his email that he just shared. So David, thank you so much again. I appreciate it. Good luck with everything. For those who are out there who are listening and watching, thank you so much for taking the time. Please like, share, comment. If you found value here today, please share it with someone else who could find value. My name is Dan Scott. This is Theory and Practice. My goal is for us to get better and to do it together. And we'll talk to you next time.